Good morning, it's Peter from the Salvation Army. Just wanting to touch on a subject today which is very close to our heart. It's discipleship. For some reason, throughout my lifetime, I don't know if it's been your experience, but discipleship has often been spoken of as a glamorous kind of thing that we should engage in, and you know, because we'll see results quickly and the whole world needs to be saved. And you know, discipleship for Jesus wasn't like that. Discipleship for Jesus was a messy process. It's ultimately a process which led to his death. Discipleship is certainly not glamorous. And if anyone's thinking of starting to make disciples, you need to get into a good headspace. You need to actually be doing it only if you're a follower of Jesus, because it's only Jesus that will sustain us to be able to continue to do discipleship. Discipleship basically is someone becoming like the master. So the master is not any one of us, the master is Jesus. And the point of discipleship is to get people to look to Jesus so that they too may be like Jesus. If people try to become like me or try to become like someone else that's a follower of Jesus, it's like a carbon copy of the original. You know what I mean? It's like a photocopy of a photocopy. It's insignificant. All of us need to be connected into the master. And so the master, being Jesus, is our guide. He is our model. He is our help. He is our motivation. He is everything we need. And so if we're not connected to God, discipleship will be a disaster. And actually, it will burn you out. It will give you depression. It will give you mental health issues, because discipleship is such a messy process. And actually, the whole reason I'm telling you this today is because people get into a discipleship process and they go, oh, this doesn't work. Basically, the best analogy we can look at when we look at discipleship is farming. And Jesus talks about the parable of the sower. It's a farming illustration. It talks about 4 different kinds of soil: the hard, shallow, weedy, and the good soil. So basically, discipleship is like farming. And we all know in Australia how hard farming is. Farming, more often than not, is a failure because of the weather conditions, because of, you know, either get extreme heat or extreme rain and then it kills the crop. Yeah, either way, it's a tough gig to do farming in Australia. So farming is also a great analogy for discipleship, because you get people who are hard soil, that is, people who don't want a bar of Jesus. You get people who are like shallow soil, people who jump in and go, oh yeah, I want to follow Jesus, and then shortly later they just turn away for no reason. Then you get the weedy soil, people who start following Jesus and then they get caught up in life's problems and there's not enough money, or there's not enough trouble, or life can become weedy and we get distracted. But then we get the good soil. The good soil is, as we know in farming, good soil is the soil that has all the fertilizer in it, all the strong fertilizers in it which make the soil beautiful for growing. And obviously fertilizer can often be manure. So manure is a really great fertilizer. So often the lives that we connect with who are really good soil for discipleship are people with lives with a lot of manure in it. I'm putting it nicely. And often the people who have a lot of manure in their lives have a very chaotic life. They have probably never been taught life skills. They've probably struggled through life. And some of them have internal passions because they've probably been pushed down or trodden on, or, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of internally motivated people out there who God is preparing to raise up to be ministers of the gospel. So for us to be disciple makers, we need to be prepared to go and find those people in our community. And you know, God is raising them up, and he asks us every day to beg the Lord of the harvest. We've talked about Luke 10. Every day raise them up. But to go into the community and find these people means you've got to go through finding people who don't want to know about Jesus. People who are shallow in their faith. People who are weedy in their faith. People who, go, oh yeah, I'll do it, but then don't do it. Or people will go, oh yeah, I want to do it, but oh, the struggles, oh, I'm not getting what I need. Oh, but if I could just have this, yeah, that's the weedy soil. So it's actually trying to invest. We invest in everyone, but we invest heavily in the good soil. People are actually going, I think I need this. I really need Jesus. But even when we invest in really good soil, like in farming, there's still no guarantee of a crop. It is a tough gig to do discipleship. We have to journey alongside people. We have to point people back to Jesus. Journey through the mess. And if people, for example, have never had it modeled to them what it means to have a healthy relationship, our opportunity in this relationship is to model that alternative and to say, you know what? Even when we hurt each other, I'm not going to give up on you. We're going to talk about this. We're going to work through this. Even when people make silly mistakes and silly life choices when they're starting to follow Jesus, you know what? It's okay. We can start again. It's messy. It's people will revert back to what they know, and if their culture is doing one particular thing, more often than not, to break that culture is a difficult thing for people. So discipleship can be really messy. So I just wanted to say that to you today, because if you're in a situation where you're discipling someone and you feel this is a waste of time, you're exactly where you need to be. Being next to people, journeying in the mess, is exactly where we need to be. Jesus modeled this, and you look at him. He invested heavily in 12 blokes for 3 years, and at the moment where he needed him, where were they? Disappeared. Gone. Jesus had that happen to him. Jesus modeled to us what it's like to be a disciple maker. Jesus modeled the realities of disciple making, and so we can stand assured knowing that even when we are struggling in making disciples, journeying alongside people, we can be at peace because God is with us and he is working in and through us and them. So I just encourage you today, don't give up. Well, actually, do give up. Give up on yourself and trust Jesus. Give up on ourselves. Give up on our own ambitions, our own desires, our own dreams, and actually go, God, what is it you have for me today? Be still. Rest in Jesus. Rest in Jesus. So that's my word of encouragement for disciple makers today. Rest in Jesus. Listen to him and do what he says. Disciple making can be a joy, or it can be a hard work, a real hard work. But it can also be joy in the hard work. Let Jesus guide today. Peter from the Salvation Army.